Evening book war. Welcome, welcome. Sorry, I just ran back up the steps. I had to go grab a book, so I'm breathing hard. Just gonna wait for Miss Haddi to pop on here. Oh, welcome to our first March book talk. Here we go. Except, let's just see if it works the first time again. Doing pretty good. Let's try it again. Maybe not. Except, All right, well, nope, it's not going to work easy tonight, so we'll try this. Let me see if I can invite you, Haddi, see if it works that way. See if you can join. Didn't get it first time. Oh, it says Haddi is unable to join. Why? Why? Okay. Oh, there she is.
There we go. Okay. Don't know what was going on there, but we got it sorted.
Well, that was a weird one. Yeah, that was like, I think that was an Instagram one, not an us one, actually.
Yeah.
Surprising, I know.
I think that might not have been on us for the first time,
for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. Not actually on us.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, sis. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How you doing?
I'm okay. It's been a very long week.
Yep.
I got home from work today, and I have been laying in my bed reading and watching reels for more hours than I would like to say out loud.
We're not going to quite say how many hours we've been doing that. That's fair, Han. That's fair.
But it was very much needed.
Yeah.
So feeling much better now. So good.
Good. Glad
ready to talk about books.
When are you not ready to talk about books?
Well, that is actually true too. That's fair point. That's fair point. So tonight is our genre read. And do we have another one? Are we doing one on Easter night?
I don't know that we scheduled it. I didn't have it on my calendar. I looked before this. I didn't have anything on my calendar, so I don't know that we actually decided.
Maybe we were just doing one in March because March was pretty insane for me. Well, I think maybe that is what we decided.
This is actually our second one in March because our soapbox episode was March. So,
well, it'd be helpful. Like I said, March has been a little crazy for me. I feel like it's been 6 months already, and it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah, it has. So this is our second one in March. We did our soapbox episode the first Sunday in March 2 weeks ago, and then we're doing our genre read tonight. And I don't think we've actually picked dates for April, so we will have to do that.
Okay.
Later and figure that out. So yeah,
right. Because you're in town a little bit and traveling a little bit too. So yeah, we'll have to work on that. So anyway, but today's is our second BiblioTalk in March.
Yeah.
And we are talking about our genre reads.
Yep.
Which our genre this month was Haddi's favorite.
One of my favorites, historical fiction. Love it. So good. One of my absolute favorite go-to genres.
Real quick, sis. How many historical fiction books have you read already in March?
Oh, well, yeah, I was thinking about that. So, because here's the thing. Because I'm making for the blog, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm making a book list of good historical fiction.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'll just do ones that I've read recently, and literally, I think the first 6 are all ones that I've read in the last couple months. So there have been a few. Yeah, it is definitely one of my go-to genres for sure.
For sure. Yeah. But what did you read this month?
So
all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't remember.
Yeah. So as you may or may not remember, Hannah, I'm kind of obsessing over Imperial Russia right now.
Oh, I do remember what you're reading. Yes, I remember you read it. Yes, tell. Imperial Russia,
So
Peter the Great,
Peter the Great.
Catherine the
Okay, so
Great.
yes, last month we were reading
Mm-hmm.
biographies or memoirs. I chose a
Mm-hmm.
biography and I did Peter the
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I read that
Mm-hmm.
last month. That was in February. So that was my February genre read. And so then I'm like, I'm just kind of like a little obsessing over Imperial Russia right now. So I chose
Mm-hmm.
an Imperial Russian historical fiction book for
Of course,
March.
of course
And
you
the
did.
one I picked,
And I remember that now. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, of course I did, right? And so then the one I picked was called The Romanov Empress, a
Yes.
novel of Zarina Maria Fyodorovna. Okay. And I know,
Beautiful.
I practiced that. I did. But I
That was
got it
really
right.
good.
I nailed it. So,
You did nail it. That's really
yes,
well done.
thank
Good
you.
job. I'm proud of you.
I totally practiced. I'm not going to lie.
Well, that's
And
important. It's important.
it,
I practiced a couple of mine tonight too. So
it is important. So it's like I want to be able to say it and not look like and sound like a
right.
jerk. So I did practice. But so Maria Fyodorovna was the last Tsar Nicholas II's mother.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and she was empress for a long time
Oh,
before
okay.
her husband
Oh,
died. And
okay.
then of course the Nicholas
Right.
ascended the throne, became the czar, right? Her son became the czar. And then she lived after
Yeah.
Nicholas and Alexandria and their children were murdered.
Oh,
So she lived for another 10 years after that.
really?
Yep.
I guess that is true. That does happen in Anastasia. Now that you say that, that does happen in Anastasia.
All of Hannah's Imperial Russian history comes from the movie Anastasia. That's the Disney movie. Just so everybody knows, we're just going to be honest. Like,
And you know what?
you're
It's a
not
lot
the only one.
of people's cultural reference, and
Yes. You are
I'm not
not the
proud
only
of
one.
it, but it is accurate.
It's the truth, and you're not the only one. Like,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. So anyway, so it's called The Romanov Empress, novel
Mm-hmm.
of Zarina Maria Fyodorovna, and it was excellent. I listened to it. So I don't actually have the book. I listened to
Yeah.
it, and I loved it. It was probably I would actually say it's probably like in my top five of like, this was really good historical fiction in the sense that like, I was completely sucked in. Now, to be fair, like Imperial Russia is so intriguing, like all the
Okay.
time, right?
Like
Like
super court drama, like
there's
high, like yeah.
there's so much going on in Imperial Russia all the
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
and just like, and they're so like connected but not connected
Yeah.
with sort of like Western
Yeah.
Europe. And then they get Tsar Nicholas marries
Mm-hmm.
Alexandra, and Alexandra is actually the
Okay.
granddaughter of Queen Victoria in England, right? So you
Okay.
get like, there's so many connections is the point.
Oh,
Is like so many
yeah.
connections, and they're so interrelated,
Yeah.
and intermarried. All the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting and so intriguing. Plus, the other part that's so intriguing is Russian culture.
Yeah.
Their religious culture is super intriguing because it's very
Yeah.
different.
Okay.
The Russian
Right.
Orthodox Church is
Church. Yeah.
so interesting. I mean, like, I'm a theologian and I teach religions all the time, so of course it's interesting to me. But it's very interesting, and how culturally people have connected historically to
Mm-hmm.
the church, and what the church is in Russia historically, and especially during the Imperial Russia time.
Yeah.
It's just like, and all of the cultural stuff is so intriguing and interesting because it's familiar but it's different, right? So it's like, it's so like,
Okay.
you can understand the stuff, but
Great.
it's so
Yeah.
different that it's completely intriguing all the time. And I thought that this C.W. Gortner is
Mm-hmm.
the one who wrote the Romanov Empress, and I thought she did a great job of really giving the Empress this really like clear personality. There was, of course, a lot of that is sort of like made up and
Of course.
fictional, right?
Right. It's a
um
novel.
it's a novel. It's absolutely a novel. But there was absolutely like the stuff that happened, like all historical fiction. It's like the events,
Big
the
events.
historical
Right.
events are the things that
Mm-hmm.
are happening, right? Those are
Mm-hmm.
actually the moments. And she just did a really good job. The author did a great job of really giving the Empress this clear
Mm-hmm.
personality and motivations.
Interesting.
throughout the whole book. And so then, okay, because I'm such a crazy person, so I'm just gonna like tell you what I did after that because I'm a crazy person. So
Yep.
then
No.
I was still
Bring on the
obsessing
crazy.
over
Yep.
over Imperial Russia. So then I pick out a it's another Audible book that I listened to. The next one I listened to, oh my gosh. It was nonfiction.
Oh.
And it was called The Romanov Sisters. Okay, so this is it's called, and then the subtitle is The Lost Lives of the Daughters of Nicholas and Alexandra, right?
Oh.
So it's the
Okay.
four sisters,
Okay.
right? But this is nonfiction.
Interesting.
Then then I've had these two portrayals of this same woman, right?
Right.
Because of course, like this
Right.
woman was their grandmother, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it almost like sort of even starts a little bit with
Oh,
her. And
interesting.
then
Yeah.
and then Alexandra, their mother's
Yep.
relationship with her mother-in-law, right? Who's this Empress who I just read this historical novel
Right.
about, right?
Right.
And so it was super intriguing and interesting. Like the historical novel is
Mm-hmm.
her voice, right? The
Mm-hmm.
Empress's voice. And so of course, like she's like when she's sort of like being stubborn or having sort of questionable reasons for what she's doing, like to her, it all makes sense, right? Because this is her voice and it's this
Yeah.
fictionalized character,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
of her.
Mhm.
But then I'm listening to this nonfiction version, right,
Mhm.
of her, and it's so awesome to like hear like how other people are like perceiving her actions and her motivations, right? I know
You
it's
were
so
such a
ridiculous.
nerd.
Such a nerd. I can't help it. Oh my god, but I loved it so much. And the book was really good too. By the way, the nonfiction book was really good, The Romanov Sisters. And that one was by Helen Rappaport. And it was really, really good too. But I was just like so completely like sucked into this. Like I had to stop. I did stop. Like that was the last one that I did. I mean, granted, I finished it like a week and a half ago.
Right.
So like who knows? I'll probably pick
Right.
something else up, you know.
Well, I
While
mean,
I'm
it's like you're never going to read it again, but like sometimes once you've started going down a particular rabbit
yeah.
hole, you do have to like,
It's
okay,
like, okay,
I
I need
need to
to
stop
take a
with my
step back.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, it was too. That was a big rabbit hole. It really, really was. I think one of those books was like 17 hours. Oh yeah, I think the
Yeah.
of listening
The
time.
yeah,
The
the first
Empress.
one, the
Yeah,
Empress.
the Romanov Empress was like 17 hours
Mhm.
of listening time, and I didn't even care. I think I said to Hannah, I was like, I don't even care. I'm like so engrossed in this
Yeah.
novel. I was like, I don't even
Love
care
that.
how long it is. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that.
So anyway, I had a great little like mini Imperial Russian adventure over the last couple months
Yeah.
that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's just like the intrigue and the personalities and like all the stuff that's
Yeah.
going on,
And like
just
being
phenomenal.
able to see it from different perspectives and
Yes.
different like lenses.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It was so awesome. So yeah, okay.
Um,
So that was my crazy rabbit hole. Everybody they picked your book. Which book did you end up reading? Salt
did
Houses?
pick my book.
Yeah.
I did have a ton of people, but I have to tell you what's funny about your little rabbit
Yeah.
hole is um, what happened for me in March was I ended up reading both a nonfiction about the history of Palestine as well as the book that was picked for me, which was Salt
Salt
Houses,
Houses.
which Haddi has also read.
Yes.
Salt Houses by Hala, Alyan. Alyan. I think I listened to it and now you started talking Russian and now I forgot it. But
Sorry.
anyway, I loved it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. Here's the thing. So I was reading as well. I was listening to The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. And so it starts at the same place that this family starts. And
Oh.
so I'm reading these simultaneously. And so these like big wars that occurred in Palestine and towards Palestine and the formation of the Israeli state and some of that stuff, it's all happening. Like those big things are kind of the big things that keep happening in this book to this particular fictionalized family. So it was mind-blowingly
Yeah.
excellent. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that I would have liked this book as
Yeah.
much if I wasn't reading it alongside
Yeah.
this history. And then Khalidi does tell his family's history. So it starts with his grandfather.
Okay.
He's about our dad's age. Like
Okay.
his kids were born at the same time in like the early 80s and
Okay.
late 70s. So he must be around our parents' age.
Mm-hmm.
And so it must be, yeah, I think it must be his grandfather is where it starts. And so and they're like all part of like a lot of the political machine of Palestine, as it exists or doesn't in some cases. And so, yeah, so that was really interesting. So he's telling a bit of his story along with this deep history of the last 100 years in Palestine. And then this particular story about this generational family and very much diaspora, right? Like there's a breaking of that family. And the whole part around Kuwait and then the Iraqi war that was in here was just heartbreaking. And I didn't know Kuwait had a huge Palestinian community. And Amman, I'm going to be real honest. Again, I think everyone knows I'm learning lots of stuff when I read.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a country named Amman until I read this book. And I was like, what's Amman? Yeah. And then I looked it up. And and one more time, I have to say, getting a shower curtain that is a global map is really helpful. Because, and like seeing the size. Yeah. Like, and I know that like all maps are like slightly screwed up, like, right? Like they're not, they're all like, you know, because you flatten out a round thing and like this, but like, even if it's like remotely close, like the size of this area that they're talking about in a lot of these different places, they're so small.
They're tiny, yeah.
And you're just like, these tiny little places. And then, so yeah, I really enjoyed it.
That's great.
I kept going like, why is it called Salt Houses? Yeah. But it does come around at the end. I figured it out. But it was like, it was a really weird title for this book. But
I can't remember. I read it a couple years ago, so I can't remember the.
Yeah, it's called Salt Houses. So the grandfather, Atef, towards the end is talking about all the different houses in all the different lands and all the different countries and like the apartments in Beirut and the houses in Amman and the original house that they had in Nadur. Not sure I said that name right. But like, and he talks about them being kind of like salt houses. And the way I read it, and I'm not 100% sure this is true, but the way I read it was kind of like that thing that kind of disintegrates into that's impermanent, the impermanency of them. I'm not 100% sure that was right, but you know how sometimes there's, but I really liked it. And being able to see the generational attachment to Palestine and how that has shifted, but yet there is still the attachment, right? Like the attachment didn't change.
It's still there, yeah.
But the way that it manifests in each of those generations, I thought Alyan did a wonderful job of those characters and like really feeling like you're in some of the tumultuousness of like some of the characters are very we would name as like hot-headed or and then there was this couple of sisters that were really more pious and kind of chose that path and like where that comes from and where it felt really clear. Like I thought she did a really good job around her characterization of and particularly of the women. And it's more matriarchal, I think. I mean, there are men in it, but it's much more matriarchal than patriarchal in the way she tells the story. So
the storytelling is,
But I don't know that I would have enjoyed it nearly as much, except that I was reading the other book along at the same time, so that I was like learning so much of the context of of the wider context for each of these moments that Alyan came up with. And I would say, okay, so I thought I was reading, speaking of the 100 Years War on Palestine, I thought I was reading the book that you and Amy had told me to read. I took it down to Mom and Dad's because I actually do have the physical book because the whole time I'm reading it, I'm also like, I think this is like, he has to be the same age as our parents. So I was like, I think Mom and Dad would really like this because they're talking about things that they would remember, right? Like we've read some other historical stuff that Mom's been like, why do I not know this? Like, why I was alive.
Like,
and so
I was alive. I should have been coherent to this. Yeah.
I took it down there and Mom's like, oh, I don't know. I'm reading that 4,000 that 4,000 year history of Palestine. And I'm like,
the one. Yeah.
I think that was the one I was supposed to read.
No. But Amy did also recommend this one, Hannah, that you're reading. I have it on my shelf as well. So she recommended both of them.
Oh, okay. Because I was not going to read the 4,000 history, but I told Mom, give it to Dad. I think Dad would like it. But I do. I mean, and after she finishes the 4,000 years, she might, because this one was a little bit more like my ability to enter into into the nonfiction history world, because he does do it through like his family as well, like those characters. So, but yeah, it was really funny. Mom's like, and I was like, oh, I got the wrong book. I thought that was the book I was supposed to read.
I warned Mom about that book though, because like it really is like that one is a little bit dense. Well, you know,
she said it's good. She's enjoying it. It's just it's gonna take her a while, right? I remember you saying like you finished it in like a week and a half.
Well, yeah, but I'm a crazy person, you know.
No,
I'm not known
obviously.
Like,
so anyway,
it's one of those things. There are certain books that, like, yeah, I know that I could finish it in like a week and a half and like and love it and just like soak it up and just like But I would never say that. Like, okay, I would say like maybe Amy could finish it in a week and a half, but I would never like recommend it to like a normal person and be like, oh, this is like an easy read,
right? No,
you know, so you can like. Because it's not. It's heavy. There's lots of like a lot of information there.
It's like a historical book.
Yeah,
like
it is. Yeah.
Yes, that is what it is for. So anyway, so if you are thinking about reading Salt Houses, if you like generational family stories, no matter what, you will like this.
Yeah.
If you like, if you know a bit about the Palestinian history over the last 100 years, and want to see a bit of what that effect is on humans and on actual families and relationships, definitely I think you will like this. There is nothing not to recommend about this other than I don't know that I would have understood a lot of what was happening without the context of the other book. I'm not sure I would have really I'd have been like, okay, I mean, it's a nice generational story. It's interesting, but I wouldn't have quite got the same, it wouldn't have had the same effect. And if you do read books side by side, it's a great pairing. I'll tell you that. It is a fantastic pairing. So, and I most of my nonfiction I listened to, and I did listen to the 100 Years War on Palestine. So that makes that easier too, to like read them side by side, because one I listened to in the car and the other one
you're like actually reading.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing. Like it's actually really nice though when you can pair books like that, right? And you end up like liking them both more and like being able to like glean more from both of them because you're doing it, you know, reading them together, you know.
I mean, there are people who hate reading things together, and I get that, and particularly sometimes when reading things together are really similar. And I have been guilty of that and getting storylines screwed up in my head when I was actually telling other people about it. That has happened to me. It does happen. But there are times too where like the synchronicity of it is like so good and like and it's beautiful and I love it, and I understand that that's not for everybody, but it is to die for when it happens. And I was going to tell you, Haddi, what I picked up because I finished Salt Houses is The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi.
I saw that you got that. You're gonna love it.
I mean, that is just a started it today. Yes, I came home and I was like, I started this, and then I started watching too many reels. But I did a little scrolling.
You went down that rabbit hole.
Went down that rabbit hole too bad. But like, I'm already like, oh, this is gonna be good.
It is. It's just a fun read.
Also, again, very, very glad because I'm such a nerd. So it has this map in it, right?
I know.
And then
it does take place in a historical time. So its context is historical.
I'm like, oh, I'm going to go look at this on the map in my bathroom. So do I have this up next to my map in the bathroom going, oh, okay, yeah, this is, okay, this is where that is. Okay. Should I have known where the Arabian Sea was? Yes, I should.
You probably should have known that.
Did I? Yeah. Did I know that was really the Arabian Sea? No, I did not. The Red Sea, I did know. That one I didn't know.
Okay. Well, you were halfway there. Yeah.
I got there. But yeah, anyway.
You're working on your like Middle Eastern geography. You're learning.
I'm telling you, my geography is seriously is like making a couple of steps up over the last couple of years since I got that ridiculous shower curtain.
That shower curtain is hilarious, for sure. But it is kind of like this great sort of like reference, you know?
Sitting on the toilet, been reading about China, figured out where Korea was. Wasn't at all where I thought it was.
You're like, that is not where I thought Korea was.
You know. Anyway.
Hey, we learn in lots of different ways, and it's all good.
Yeah. So I did look up our genre read for April. Do you remember?
I do remember, actually. Yeah. I also wrote it down.
Oh. Okay. Because our genre read for April is classics. And we actually picked one for this. Also, in theme of paired readings.
Absolutely.
We are going to read Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, both of us, because, Haddi, why are we reading this book?
We are reading this because we both read. I read, and I'm like, Hannah, you have to read this because this is what happens all the time. I think Mom read it too.
Yeah.
It's called The Barbizon, and it is a nonfiction book about the Hotel Barbizon in New York City, which Sylvia Plath stayed at and then wrote about her experience in The Bell Jar.
Bell Jar. So, like, when reading that book, we were both like, oh, I've never read The Bell Jar. Have you read The Bell Jar?
I did read it. I thought it was like, what the heck is it? It was kind of like one of those things. It's like, okay, I read it, but I'm not sure what this was. So I absolutely need to read it again. And now I'll have a lot of context. It's going to be much better this time.
Yeah. So, I'm very excited. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, ditto. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
The other classic that I've decided I really want to read, though, as well, and I think I'm going to do it next month because it's in the same kind of vein of feminist writing, is Mrs. Dalloway.
Oh, Mrs. Dalloway. Very good. Yes, I have that on my shelf as well. I've read
I have never read either. Or I've never read it as well. I don't know. Have you read it?
Yeah, it's on my shelf, and I've read it.
Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. And I can't remember if it was The Barbizon. No, it was a different feminist book I read earlier this year or late last year. I'll have to figure out what it was. That referred to this book over and over and over again. And I'm like, okay, I have to read.
It is a bit of a classic, especially when you're thinking of Room of Her Own. What's her name? Virginia Woolf. Sorry.
Oh, I'm like, what? What did you just say?
Oh,
yes, Virginia Woolf.
She wrote a Room of One's Own.
Right? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that was Virginia Woolf.
Yeah. Okay,
but then this was just another one that she wrote. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think I'm going to just put it on my shelf to read next month in April as well, along with, and I will figure out what book that was that kept referring back to this.
Mrs. Dalloway.
Dalloway. As
what it would have been. I can't think of anything that I've read.
It was a feminist reader. It was a feminist book of some sort that was, I feel like it was about literature.
Okay.
So I'll find it. I just have to look through mine.
You just like look through your shelf and be like, oh, that's it.
Yeah,
you'll see it.
That's
like
it.
Once you see it, you'll know. Yeah.
So, and it was just a couple, and so then they had it in the fancy
beautiful cover. Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? It's like gold. They're like gold.
It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm gonna pick it up because I've been reading this book and it keeps talking about that book. That's how I read books. Those are the that's how I go down. My twirls to the bottom tend to be about like buying more books that a book has told me to buy, or that a book is like referencing. I'm like, oh, I should get that book, and I should get that book, and I should get that book.
You do that a lot.
They don't always get read, but that's how I.
Yeah,
is what my obsession looks like. So.
Yeah. So just one last little thing that we'll say before we sign off. So we felt very proud of this. We didn't do it on purpose, but then it kind of came out that it was great. So like March is actually like historical fiction month, and then we did our genre read historical fiction, and then as it so happened, unbeknownst to us, we managed to pick a historical fiction book for our book club, and I just want to like tout this one out because I think it's going to be good. I haven't started it yet, but we're reading Sister Mother Warrior by Vanessa Riley, who also wrote Island Queen, which I have read, and it was very good.
Which was on my list, but was not picked. So I'll have to read it too. As well as, I would like to say, it is also Women's History Month. And both of our historical fictions were about
women's history.
About women.
Yep, and this is too. This is about two women in Haiti. So
I know. We're really killing this without even doing it on purpose.
We don't even have to do it on purpose. That's how awesome we are.
Because that's what we read anyway.
I know. This is because that's what we read. And it just happens to be that like March is the month for all these things. So it works out. Right. So we look really amazing and on top of things in March. The rest of the time, we got nothing.
Well, yeah, probably true. But sometimes we're on point.
Sometimes we're on point.
Because we do read diverse enough that we're sometimes on point.
Accidentally on point
but yeah,
on occasion.
This month was a real
convergence
moment.
We did good. Yep,
So,
for sure.
So we're not sure when we'll be back.
We don't know. But we will be back. We just don't know when. We haven't talked about it. Hannah had a busy month, so we haven't been able to meet as frequently as usual, which is fine. That's why we haven't picked our April dates yet. So
April dates, yeah. But I was gonna say something, Haddi. Now I just lost it. Shoot. Never mind. It's gone. I remember. Will you just before I forget, will you just text me the name of all your books from today? Your Russian.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm like, every book I talked about, but the Russian
just books. The Russian ones, in case somebody wants to follow into your imperialistic footsteps.
They want to.
And I was going to do the same with the Palestinian books, including the 4,000-year history one that we talked about. If anybody wants to take a little dive into either one of those, they'll have the book name.
Yeah.
So
I will do that. No problem.
Okay. I'll update the details for the thing after I get them. So perfect.
Sounds good. Super. Excellent. All right.
See you, everybody. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
Bye, everybody.